Trump ended up going on the Joe Rogan podcast for what ended up being 3 hours while he was supposed to be at a rally in Michigan, I think it was.
Yeah.
And during the 3-hour interview, you could see Joe Rogan realizing in real time that Donald Trump has no clue what he's talking about. And we have a few clips from the interview that I thought we thought were hilarious. Yeah, and important. What did you think of this, Mike?
Well, it's important to note we are not like supporting Joe Rogan. There was a time where he was somewhat funny, and I used to love listening to him on the UFC broadcasts, but Joe Rogan is responsible for a lot of the misogynistic nonsense that has been infecting so many young men in this country. I mean, if you want to see just quickly, this is Spotify shares podcasts follower count. I'm sorry. Spotify is sharing podcasts follower count. Joe Rogan Experience, 14.5 million. The next most, TED Talks, Actual Education, 5 million.
Almost
Call Her Daddy was the podcast that Kamala Harris was on at 3.7 million. All right? That's a lot of people Joe Rogan is getting, but it's really a niche demographic. The point is, if you take that out of context and watch Joe Rogan interview Donald Trump, he may not press him as hard as I'd like, but Jeremy, you said this before the show, before we started recording, he's actually asking him questions that literally no one else will ever ask him. Fox doesn't ask him anything, right? Whenever he just randomly calls into anyone else's news show on one of those third-rate networks, they don't ask him anything. They're like, how you doing today, Prez? What color's the sky? And he's like, pickles. And they're like, yeah, woo! But like Joe Rogan actually asked him some questions. So at least in that regard. And he gets some funny answers, man. Some fantastic
yeah, that's hilarious. So, all right. So the first clip we'll go over, and this is one of my favorites. Donald Trump's talking about wind turbines in Wales again. Okay, so just so everybody knows, whales are not beaching themselves. The country of Wales had a problem with all the wind turbines. They didn't like how they looked. They didn't like how they sounded. The people of Wales, not actual fucking whales. Let me play this real quick.
How about in New Jersey, off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build. The people are going crazy not to build them. But where you have them, the whales are washing up on shore.
Right.
So in 50 years, they had one whale come ashore. Now they had like 18 come in the last year.
What number is
that? What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. You know, it's a vibration because you have those. You know, those things are 50-story buildings. Some of them.
Right, and they're
50.
super sensitive to vibrations.
They have
and
those.
sounds.
You know, the wind is rushing. The things are blowing. It's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales freaking crazy.
The one guy on the planet that needs a psychiatrist the most wants to be a whale psychiatrist.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. But no, whales are not beaching themselves because of the wind turbines. It's not a thing. If you look at any scientific article about this, they've all debunked this.
The only whales that we should, I don't want to say worry about, because personally I'm all for it, but the only whales that are acting strangely are all the killer whales taking out the rich people's yachts. Because like every other week, there's another story about a pod of killer whales just taking down an asshole in a yacht. So
hey, as long as the killer whales leave the poor people alone, I'm all for it.
Yeah, hey, eat the rich, man. At least I don't have to eat them. I don't want to
screw
eat
your yacht. And then Joe Rogan's like, "Oh, I wrote an article about that. What's that about?" Like, no, you didn't.
You didn't. You didn't read an article about it.
All right, so now Joe Rogan, Donald Trump's talking about the weave. I can't believe the weave is just rambling. They gave a title to rambling like a psychopath. Now they call it the weave. And the media has picked up on this, but even Joe Rogan's like, bro, your weave is getting really wide.
It's funny because I don't want to give him credit, but he is in a lot of ways mocking Trump to his face, because Trump is one of those people, you could go up to him and go, you're a moron. And he'd be like, I know, ice cream is delicious. I'm awesome. Thank you. Like, he doesn't understand when people are mocking him.
No, not at all.
But It's funny.
There is a moment on the show though. I think Donald Trump gets pissed for Joe laughing at him. But let's play the weave first and see him explain this shit.
You know, I'd give an answer, which was a very good answer. I always talk about, you know, I like to give long the weave. You know, I like to give
you like to weave things
yeah,
in.
but when you do the weaves, and you have to be very smart to do weaves. When you do the weave, look at this. Just in this one thing, we're talking about little pieces all over here, but it
Gotta
always
get back
ends
to
up.
home.
No, it comes back home.
Yeah.
For the right people, for the wrong people, it doesn't come back home, and they end up in the wilderness. Right? He was not bad, right? That guy.
Oh, he was phenomenal.
But that's your kind of
Your
person.
weave is getting wide. We're getting wide with this weave.
But isn't it
I want
much
to bring
better?
it back to tariffs.
But wait one second before.
That's what he was thought the question was about tariffs.
So the whole point of it being 3 hours, this is my favorite part. I just thought it's because he can't stay on topic. He didn't sit down to do a 3-hour in-depth interview. The interview took 3 hours. So today I actually did read an article where it talked about how Kamala Harris has said she will be happy to go on Joe Rogan's show, but she's only going to do an hour. Does anyone realize that she's mocking Trump there? And everyone's like, oh, she's only going to do an hour. Trump did 3 hours. It took Trump 3 hours to spell his name with crayons. That's why it was a 3-hour interview.
And the reason I think it's not happening is because they want Joe Rogan to come to her and he wants it to be in his studio. So Kamala Harris is not turning him down. She just wants it on her terms.
Guess what? Kamala Harris doesn't need Joe Rogan. All right.
No.
I already showed you how large his audience is. Let me just show you exactly what the demographics are. Okay. Demographic profile of U.S. adults who identify as, quote, avid fans of Joe Rogan versus those who say they are not a fan. 46% Republicans, 54% conservatives. Demographic profile of U.S. adults who identify as avid fans of Joe Rogan versus those who say they are not a fan. Well, male, 72%. Ages 18 to 34, 46%. White, 64%. So we got young white men.
Yeah.
Now, do we need to win over young white men? Yes, but we're not going to win over young white men who identify as avid fans of Joe Rogan. That's not a thing. So she doesn't need Joe Rogan.
And podcasts and independent media seem to be they've targeted it. I mean, it's smart. It's smart because the landscape has changed. We've all seen now that we cannot rely on corporate media anymore.
And I think that's important. We're seeing, especially the Harris camp, really rely on digital media and didn't waste the time with traditional media until the end of the campaign, because that's when most of the people that don't spend a lot of time following politics finally tune into politics.
Right.
So all the time when Trump's wasting his breath, no one cares. But now all the independents and the undecideds are like, well, it's a week before the election. Let me check out the news. Boom, Harris is everywhere. Where's Trump? He's no showing. Oh, but he's doing a 3-hour Joe Rogan interview. Okay.
Right. So, all right. Next clip is funny, I think, because here Trump accidentally lets it slip that he lost the election and then immediately corrects himself and says he won. But I don't think he's very happy with the fact that Joe Rogan lassoed him on this one.
He did get a little upset.
51 intelligence agents come up that the laptop was from Russia. It turned out to be totally false.
51 former intelligence agents, right?
They say that made, I don't believe it's this much, but it doesn't have to. I lost by I didn't lose, but they say I lost, Joe, they say I lost by 22,000 votes. That's like 1/10 of 1%, less than that. It's a tiny little thing.
What does that even mean?
22,000 votes spread over, that's spread over this period. So 51 intelligence agents lied. They lied. They lied. They knew it was. It was Hunter's. It was from his bed. It was Hunter's laptop. They said it was created by Russia.
Bro,
Russia. It was the Russia hoax.
He is still talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. How much? I am so tired of hearing about that laptop over the last 2 years. It has been utterly insane. And it's gone nowhere.
Trump is a fast-paced defamation machine. That guy goes from defamation to defamation to lie to slander. He doesn't have any, and it's just getting worse because he just knows the same few things again. His brain is so shriveled now that all he remembers is his hatred of Obama and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
They dragged him through the mud, so I hope he gets whatever he deserves.
Yep.
What he deserves, man. So the last clip we'll play from this epic failure of an interview. Joe Rogan, I don't want to say presses Donald Trump. He just asks Donald Trump if he's ever going to provide actual evidence of voter fraud, and Donald Trump's answer is
mush.
It's literally it.
I want to talk about 2020 because you said over and over again that you were robbed in 2020.
Yeah, totally.
How do you think you were robbed? Everybody always cuts you off. I'm going to
They
allow.
do. Well, they not only cut you off. Well, what I'd rather do is we'll do it another time.
He's
And I
weak.
would bring in papers that you would not believe. So many different papers. That election was so crooked. It was the most crooked election.
Okay, but give me some examples of how.
Well, let's start on
Okay.
the top and the easy ones.
Okay.
They were supposed to get legislative approval to do the things they did, and they didn't get it. In many cases, they didn't get it.
What things?
Anything. When they
Legislative
made,
approval
like
of,
for extensions of the voting, for voting earlier, for this,
Right.
for all different things. They weren't originals. They were. We could go into this stuff. We could go into the ballots, or we could go into the overall. I'll give you another one.
Are you going to present
Well,
this
let me-
ever? Like, do you think like?
Let
in
me
a-
just give you one
Okay.
more
Man, like,
before.
yeah, that's a good point. You know what I mean? If you have all of this evidence, so many papers, just papers everywhere, proving that the 2020 election was stolen. Why are you not president, dude?
It's
Like,
amazing to me because that is
So
an
bad.
interesting glimpse. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump believes that he can convince people just on his word alone
Mhm.
about anything, because right there it's like for the first time anyone's ever said to him, yeah, but do you have proof? And he went, but I'm saying it. Yeah, but are you going
Right.
to present proof? Why would I have to do that?
I know. I'm saying
He
it.
keeps
It
talking
must be
about all
true.
these papers. He's got papers like nobody's ever seen. Yeah, those were the documents that you stole, you jackass. He's getting the
Exactly.
papers confused.
Man. So no, this did not help Donald Trump at all. I don't think. If anything, every time Donald Trump opens his mouth or does a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, he loses
plays the
support.
accordion.
He's not gaining support by doing any of this crazy shit. Not one
Nope.
person is looking at this right now going, "Oh, that's
He won
that's
me
my
over.
guy.
He
That's
won me
my
over.
guy."
That was the
Ugh.
argument right there that let
Yeah.
me know Donald Trump, he's presidential.
Yeah. So again, don't vote for this. This is crazy.
Please don't.
It's insane and it's idiotic. So yeah. Right around the corner. Hopefully we don't have to deal with this much longer. One can only hope.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that's all we have for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, please like and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Leave a comment. It helps with the YouTube algorithm that seems to kind of hate us at the moment, but we're working on it.
I
Other
love
than
the
that,
algorithm, though. All hail
Yeah.
the algorithm.
we love you guys. Thank you for all your support so far. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.